Hey guys, I wanted to take just a quick minute and discuss on this Whitetail Minute just bedding and the various forms that it can come in. You know, oftentimes we talk about hinge cutting, and I think one of the reasons why hinge cutting is utilized so much is just because of how fast you can get habitat manipulated to be cohesive to bedding, conducive to bedding, or whatever you want to say. It actually attracts them into a place where they, one, have cover. You can incorporate overhead cover, although I will touch on that at a later time. I think sometimes we focus too much on overhead cover and it almost creates like a roof, and I don't think they feel as comfortable as they do with isolated pockets of overhead cover. At least that's what I've found. But for this Whitetail Minute, I wanted to discuss how bedding can take various forms. You know, you watch any video or you watch any guy, habitat guy, he might talk about a switchgrass bedding area. He might talk about a fallow field bedding area. He might walk into a place and be like, you know, this is what we try to create. And this area behind me is an area that at one time, long ago, you know, more than 12 years ago, was empty. And it got cleared because I think they originally thought here to the west is where the storage units are. And I think the guy who owned it eventually thought he'd build storage units out here, but he ended up not using it. And as you can see now, the stem count out there is just insane. There's a lot of these wild pear trees out there. There's some cedar trees over in here. There's a lot of oak trees over there as well. And what that's created is another option for bedding. It's a high stem count, high sun, good visibility, safe area where they feel cover, but they can also escape any different direction. And this is actually one of the only two possible spots that Splits walked out of his bed that day that I shot him this last year. Behind the camera is actually the trail that leads out to the food plot where I eventually shot him and where the scrapes are that he worked at. But you know, these can come in various different forms. You know, I've talked about on this property we have areas like this that are fallow and open like this, and there's even some grasses starting to grow. The dirt track area where it's an old dirt track where there's mounds and hills and jumps and stuff that have all started growing up. And that's a great bedding option. I mean, they can lean up against those just like any log that you would set in a bed that you're designing. Little hillsides can act as wind blocks, they can act as backrests. All those various things give them options to bed in. And then we have our main bedding option, which you guys have been seeing me talking about, that we're creating, is a fallow field that's so thick with Asian honeysuckle and briars and stems, it's even worse than this. It's thicker than this. And we've went in there and cut arteries throughout it and opened up pockets. 3 different types of bedding before we even hinged a single tree here. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about bedding areas. It comes in of different forms. It is not one set style of bedding. You know, there's one style is just switchgrass, bedding in a bag. Real World Wildlife Seed Company has an awesome mix called bedding in a bag, and we're going to actually plant a portion of that area, the main bedding area that is just south of where you've seen me cut arteries and everything. That's going to be where that's going to be. There's going to be about an 1.5 acre option of it there. You know, we're talking about a 22-acre chunk of property, so I can't commit a 15-acre field to switchgrass or bedding in a bag that involves other native grasses besides switchgrass. But on this 22-acre property, I want to offer a diverse options. You know, this is actually off of my property. Nobody hunts it. I'm in a good relationship with the landowner. I know nobody hunts it, and I know this is a pocket that's undisturbed unless they're back here dumping stuff or, you know, there's trespassing. I know the dirt track, nobody hunts that. That's an option that until it sells, that's going to be there, and that's going to be a bedding option. There's a bedding option off my property to the east, which is a creek bottom, another option that these deer have to bed. And then you have my hardwood section up here that when it gets logged, that'll be another bedding option that they'll be able to have. So many different options on this little property is just a great example that bedding can come in a multitude of different varieties, and there's not one set style that you should try to incorporate on your property. In your area, switchgrass isn't always the best. Maybe there's a lot of different options out there, and a lot of guys are going to that. Maybe you need to diversify your options on your property, but just keep that in the back of your mind. Bedding comes in so many different ways. There's not exactly one style to show you of bedding. The ones that you've seen in this video are all viable bedding options, and at times what Mother Nature does is much better than what you can create with your chainsaw. So just keep that in mind. Firing up the chainsaw is the #1 thing that I recommend anybody on any property does. However, don't destroy what Mother Nature is already doing. You want to enhance what Mother Nature is already doing and give those deer exactly what they desire. And sometimes that's overhauling an area, other times that's simply going in there and freeing up what Mother Nature's already given you. So this is Ty, Whitetail Minutes. 2017 is underway. We've got green up starting. I'll be bringing you some more Whitetail Minutes on food plotting, trying to get scrape lines going, artificial mock scrapes and things of that nature, and just anything and everything that I can think of. God bless.
Driving through these old rolling hills to the closest place to heaven I know.